So you are interested in getting new camera for 2024 and you don't know what to choose. My name is Sebastian. I am a professional photographer and filmmaker based in west coast of Norway. Straightforward, the cameras will be from used market, and reason for that, if you are beginner, I don't think it's worth to spend the money. Every camera decreased in value the moment you buy it. Then in my opinion, it's just better to try. If you got into it, I will divide cameras into a few categories because I highly believe that some cameras are better for some usages and some cameras are better for different, and that can save you also some money in future. Let's start with universal photo cameras that I believe are best just if you focus on photography but you don't have any genre, you just want to go with the flow. Then I think it's worth to try, for example, Fuji X-T10, X-T1 or any Fuji. It will be a good choice because these cameras are pretty fun to use and you can learn a lot from them. 16 megapixel is more than enough. It will be good for you. You just want to start with the basic. And the first lens I would go with, it will be equivalent of 24-70 in full frame. Then I think I will check on my Fuji. It's 18-55. You can see here. That's the really good first lens for the camera because you don't know yet if you are into landscape photography, street photography, or I don't know, fashion photography. Then it's good camera to test it. Then you just slowly will find your style, find your path and get into it. And also it's good travel camera. Next type of genre I would say is studio photography. If you you want to try studio, or you are into food photography, still life photography, anything that is indoors but demands from you using flashlight, things like that, I would pick Nikon D800, Nikon D810, any Canon D5 Mark, I don't know, from 1 to 4. It will be worth to invest, but I would go with something with around 30 megapixels because then you can easily crop it. And in that case, I would go for 50mm lens and 100mm lens or something like that. And one will be macro lens and the other will be normal lens that you can have the wider spread. I mean, this two set of lenses are better for start, and the reason I would pick DSLR if you are in environment that it's dark, because when you use studio lights the light will be different than you actually see and you modify it by yourself. It's easier to look at through mirror than it's EVF, because EVF you will see everything too dark and it's not comfortable to work with. And even now when I'm booked for studio shoots, I rent either this Canon or it is Nikon, wherever. It's just I use DSLRs, I don't use mirrorless in the studio. Landscape photography, and here that's tricky question because both mirrorless and DSLRs would work, but in my opinion, there is one advantage of DSLRs on this type of photography. If you go multi-day trip, that you will not have access to the charger and things like that, I will go for DSLR because the battery can last longer. And the same pick it will be as from the studio, but I wouldn't go for Nikon D800 because the ISO on 800 is pretty bad compared 810. Then if you want to pick the cameras for landscape, I would just go for 810 Nikon or Canon 5D with higher ISO. Then we have wildlife, and wildlife is tricky one because the DSLRs are not as good with their autofocus as modern mirrorless. Now, in wildlife, I would go for few cameras. I would consider Sony a7 III. I would consider Nikon Z6, but also I will just have a look for any APS-C cameras from what they offer, because still I think the autofocus, especially A autofocus, is much more superior than in terms of DSLRs. But yeah, I think I would go for Sony, Nikon, and just try to search if they have animal autofocus. I know Sony a7 III has one because I use it time to time for animals as well, but I have no idea with the other brands. Then you just need to check by yourself. Sport photography. If you're interested in like shooting sports and events, then it will be a little bit based on the speed of the sport. I mean, like Formula One and sports that speed is pretty high, then you really need good autofocus. But in this case, regardless, I would go for mirrorless. It's a little bit more superior in that case. But if you go for like outdoor sports, like, I don't know, taking photos of trekking or trail running races, things like that, I think you can also do a lot with DSLRs. I mean, they're pretty good. The autofocus area doesn't have to be that precise. Any DSLR like pretty much would do the job, and then you can see if it's for you and slowly build up from there. And also if you like, let's say, go for Canon, in future you can buy adapter and use the normal lenses, Canon EF lenses with Canon mirrorless system. Then I think it will be a good solution for anyone who want to go in the future with Canon. But I think you can do it with Nikon the same. Street photography. If I would go for street photography, if I will find the Fuji X100 for good price, I would go for that one. If I will find the Ricoh GR2, I would go for also that one, because they're pretty affordable if you find them in right place and price. They're tiny and yeah, they don't take any attention, then you basically can do a lot with it. Also, I really like this camera. It is Fuji X20 because also the form factor and everything with it, it doesn't take too much attention. Then yeah, I think that will be also a good option for street photography. Then if you want to get into video and photography, in that case I would go all in to Sony a6000 series. I mean, you can't be wrong there, because you can do cool videos out of it and learn basic techniques. You have everything you need. And then the last one, travel camera. Then for travel camera, I would go for Fuji system, because it's just small, doesn't take too much attention, and very easy to use, very nice files. And probably while you're traveling, you don't want to edit too much, and the JPEGs are very nicely looking. Then in that case, I would just go for Fuji, just because you don't really need to edit. You just shoot, and if the photo is right, you can just post it to Instagram or different platform. Yeah, then I hope you enjoyed that video. Subscribe if you liked it, and let me know what is your favorite cameras for the starters. And yeah, I see you next week.